Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Piarco in Trinidad. Today we are in the floating Bonanza G36. And what an airplane. See, it's floating. Is that me or is it mine? Anyway, what an airplane this is. In real life, I would kill one of these things. Just gonna take one quick second here to enter my my flight plan. What time is it? 15:55. Let's go with. That's about right. Go 345 on the fuel. Go 172. Go 8,000. That works. For some reason, I didn't pre-file my flight plan, which I usually do. So what that means is I have to now do this. Fortunately, it's not a big deal. I don't know, just take all that away. Let's file our flight plan. Flight plan is filed. There's no ATC available. All right, so I usually don't fly this airplane. I flew the Aero the other day. Had such a cool time doing it. I was so bummed because I had to cut the flight off before I finished. Let's go rotating beacon on. Mixtures and props full forward. Master and battery switches on. Avionics master switches on. Just gonna move this for a second. And I can tell you from my flight the other day that the lowly GNS 530 that is pretty much useless in all other aspects of this simulator. They have done, working title being they. It's engaged, always engage the toe brakes before you start an airplane, whether you got the parking brake on or not. Just look outside, make sure there's nobody outside to kill or maim. And and let's turn the fuel on before we make fools of ourselves. Is the fuel on? Fuel is on. There you go. That we are smart people, aren't we? Alright, there's a good start. Back to both. 1,000 RPM is fine. Let's see, oil temperature and oil pressure are both good. Awesome. That's a good start. Let's lean the mixture for taxi. Let's turn the fuel pump off. I'm basically treating this like like a Cherokee. I don't know if anybody who actually flies a Bonanza would probably say, "Hey, you're not doing that right," and they would be correct. So now that we have admitted our faults, we can proceed with dignity. Let's get our weather information here. Altimeter is 1016 or 3000. What do we got here? I like having, let's see, well, let's go transponder. Let's go 4643. Like I said, they really did a just an amazing job. I think it's wind option 3 that I like on this. They did an amazing job with the GNS 530, which is, you know, of course, there we go, 1016, which is, of course, a lowly airplane, or lowly nav unit. But I'll tell you, they just did an unbelievable job with it. It's actually usable now, which is really pretty remarkable. What I would really like is something I'm not going to get. So what I really want is north up. But anyway, I got the mixture leaned. Probably not supposed to have that on. Probably supposed to have this opened. That's probably one thing we are supposed to have open. And I bet you $10 I'm gonna forget to turn that on, turn that off before we take off. All right, let's release the parking brake, which of course requires that we know where the parking brake is. See, look at that. It was actually off, which is why you engage your foot brakes before you taxi anyway. Just because you always want to be sure. That when you start an airplane, it is not going to roll. I have a feeling that 1500 RPM would make this thing move a little quicker than this. I don't know what's quite going on, but let's have a look here. Piarco traffic, Bonanza 36 Mike Romeo, taxiing to runway 10 via taxiway Bravo, Piarco. So we're gonna take a left here. I'm gonna go all the way down. I like using as much runway as is available to me. As the old saying goes, 3 things that are useless to a pilot, and one of those things is runway behind you. And that isn't, and when you say that, you don't mean runway behind you as in runway that you've already eaten up as you're rolling, although that is useless to you as well. What they're referring to with that statement is this thing is not really taxiing very well. What they're referring to with that statement is runway that you line up in front of. In other words, if I took that intersection departure from right there, rather than going all the way back, then all of that runway right there is useless to me, because I didn't even give it a chance. And in the real airplane, I will taxi back. I fly out of an airport. I fly out of a former B-52 base in central New York that has an 11,000 foot long runway, and you know, there's you know, you don't need 11,000 feet of runway with a Piper Cherokee, much less a Cessna 150. But and our hangars are right in the middle of the runway, and you can do intersection departures either runway 33 or runway 15 departures off Charlie or Delta. But I don't do it. I taxi all the way back. It adds, maybe a 1/10 to your Hobbs time. But I tell you what, if I ever get 200 feet off the ground and the engine quits, which is exactly where engines love quitting, by the way, and I've still got 7,000 feet of runway in front of me, I'm going to be one happy guy. Because then what you do is pitch for best glide speed and land. Whereas if you take an intersection departure and half the runway is behind you before you've even added power, you're, as we say, SOL, shamefully out of luck, because you've left a whole bunch of runway behind you that you could have used. Alright, let's go. Fuel pump on. Mixtures and props are full forward. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go over here. I hate this. There's this new thing with I think it's Xbox Game Bar on the PC, which like just loves making these noises and pop-up things. And another thing, don't ever call for departure from the tower unless you are ready to taxi out onto the runway and add power and go. Don't call for departure with this window open because it's hot, and then you get out on the runway and you got to close this window. Don't call without your flaps set, without your trim in, and blah, 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 blah. Make sure you are ready for takeoff when you call ready for takeoff. No dilly-dallying on runways. All right. Ready to rumble. You got a slight crosswind, it looks like, from the right, but we're ready to go. It'd be even more useful if we had a frequency in, wouldn't it? 122.8. Alright, 122.8, there we go. Okay. I do not see any traffic. Piarco traffic, Baron 36 Mike Romeo taking off runway 10. It'll be a left crosswind departure to the north, Piarco. Mixtures and props full forward. Flaps are set, trim's good. Fuel pump is on. Boy, this taxi performance reminds me of a good joke. How do you know? How do you know when you've landed without putting the gear down? When it takes full power to taxi. Oops. Alright, runway is clear. Final approach course is clear. And see, now we got 10,000 feet of runway in front of us, so if something goes wrong, we just pull the power and land straight ahead. Alright, heading indicator checks with the runway number. Takeoff power is coming in. Takeoff power is set. Engine instruments are in the green. Back off the RPM just a little bit. Airspeed's alive. 80 knots. And rotate. And one thing you see a lot of real pilots do is in a single engine like this, as soon as they get airborne, they pull the gear up. Don't do that either. You know, see this? See all this runway in front of me? If my engine quit right now, and I had already put the gear up, first of all, they always say it's going to take you 5 seconds at least before it really sets in, like, okay, the engine really quit, like this is really happening, right? And so you're not going to just throw that gear down right away. Like, gear's coming up. You're not just going to throw that gear down right away and be Mr. Super Pilot. You know, you are most likely going to sit there with your mouth open, going, what? And you're not going to, your brain is not going to function quickly enough to get yourself organized and get your thoughts together and get the airplane reconfigured for landing and then get it on the ground. So what you really want to do is don't pull the gear up until there's no usable runway in front of you. Another good piece of advice is know which lever you're pulling. I'm not going to explain to you what I did right there because it's embarrassing. Oh. I'm gonna go autopilot engage. I'm gonna go, let's see, we're gonna go for that level change. And we're gonna go how about we go vertical speed mode then? Let's also go nav mode. Oops. So far, we're not having a whole lot of luck here. What I'm doing is not what I'm getting. I don't understand why. Alright, now let's try heading mode. I mean, seeing as nothing else is working. And climbing at 200 feet per minute isn't going to get the job done here. What I really want is flight level change mode. And I want to climb. I don't know why it's working now. It wasn't working before. So first of all, I have very little experience with this airplane, and I have very little experience with the G1000. So forgive me for my incompetence. But one thing I will point out, so this is, there we go. Climb profile was 139 feet. So what we're doing right now, obviously on the departure here, probably the worst Bonanza departure in history. What we're doing right now. Is listening to somebody who's apparently underwater talking on the radio. What we're doing right now is this is. Alright, we'll climb through the transition altitude, which means what? That means we hit set that to 1013. So this is full, ultra, complete, and total everything. In 2K, I am getting 60 frames per second, which is my monitor refresh speed. So this is everything it's got. And you can see the kind of the depth, right, with these hills and mountains, which is just awesome. And I'm sure that if this if this plane were in the hands of somebody halfway competent, they would really be able to make a go of it with this plane, with the G1000. I really love flying out of and into Piarco in Trinidad, because I just think it's a cool. First of all, it's a cool island, but second of all, it's really cool. It's a cool airport. It's got great approaches. It's got some scenery, which is, you know, like in terms of the mountains and such, which is a little bit different. Which is a little bit different than most islands. But it's just beautiful. And once we get up to, so our initial, let's climb up to 8,000. We are westbound. Oh, I think I may have found a new favorite airplane in the sim. Let's turn our fuel pump off because there's no reason to have it on. Let's turn our landing light on because there is a reason to have that on. Boy, oh boy, this is not a display of airmanship here this morning. I may have found a new favorite airplane in the sim. This thing is unbelievable. So leaning with the G1000 should be pretty snappy, because what you do is, you know, it's just like the same process, right? You just lean until you hit peak EGT, which is exhaust. So these are your cylinder head temperatures, which you generally want under 350 degrees, something like that. An exhaust gas temperature, I don't know exactly what exhaust gas temperature you want to aim for, or even if there is one, to be honest with you. But what you do is you just lean the mixture and watch whichever is your hottest EGT, right? The system will highlight it for you, which is this one right here right now. Number 4 is starting to catch up. If number 4 becomes the hottest one, it's going to switch over to number 4. So right now I'm going to EGT for cylinder 1, and it's 1120. And so you want to basically, you just want to lean that until it'll keep going up and up and up, and then eventually it'll hit its peak, and then it will start going down again. Gosh, look at this. I'm sorry, but this is breathtaking. This is absolutely breathtaking. And what a machine this airplane is in real life. 1,000 to go. And what a machine this is in real life, too. But you lean it, so I'll show you once we get up to 8,000 feet. Basically, just keep leaning the mixture. Watch this number go up. As soon as this number turns around and reverses and starts going back down, you know what your peak exhaust gas temperature is. And then once you know that, you just push the mixture back in until you get until you get 50 degrees rich of peak. And people, I told you. And people will argue about that, whether it's you should be rich at peak, lean at peak. I frankly am not smart enough to have a cogent argument on that, but what I do know is that the biggest name in the game of piston engine management for GA aircraft says 50 degrees rich at peak is stupid simple. You're never going to damage your engine, and so just do that. And I think that is a good plan. You know, if somebody who spent their entire life learning about these things tells you, hey, this is the way to do it. Like, unless you feel like spending your entire life trying to figure it out, or unless you have a really good reason to disagree with them, forget it. You know, just do it the way they say to do it. That's the way I look at things. I mean, I can spend as much time as I want trying to learn about engines. I'm never going to learn as much as this guy, so God help us if I tried. So we're coming up on our cruise altitude. And some people would say that you want to get on the step. I'm going to bring it back to 2400. So when you're flying, I know very little is an understatement. I know nothing about flying seaplanes. But one of the things, like, you have to get a seaplane up on top of the water. You can't mush it along in the water, kind of with the nose in the air. You gotta get it up and settled and flat on top of the water, going across of it. They call that getting on the step. And some people will say you do the same thing in cruise once you level off. So I'm pulling the mixture here a little bit. You can see the EGT going up. See 1120, 1125, 1130, 1135. That you can gain a few more knots by keeping your power in and basically forcing the nose down. And I think that's complete nonsense. I think 1195 is going to be our number here. Yep, see? See how that reversed? Now we push the mixture back into 1145. And that is going to be our peak. That's going to be 50 degrees rich of our peak EGT temperature. There we go. Now we are good to go. Right now at 15.8 gallons per hour. 68 gallons remaining. Endurance 4 hours 35 minutes. Range 760 miles, which is plenty. Alright, so what we do want to do now, however, is turn on our fuel pump and switch tanks. No, I knew that was going to happen. I always get nervous when I do that because in the sim you don't know which way is which. And it's quite easy to turn the thing off. So the last of my tirades before I just let us settle into flying is a lot of people argue, not a lot of people, but some people say that a good practice for fuel management is to run one engine or one fuel tank completely dry. And when I say completely dry, I mean to the point where the engine stops, and then you switch fuel tanks. That is another thing. Don't do it. That is a stupid idea. I don't know. It boggles the mind, some stuff that people come up with. It really does. I don't know why in God's green earth you'd want to run an engine out of fuel. It's one of those things you could even get away with 50 times. But then the 51st time you're not. And you only have to be wrong once. So I think this plane's awesome. I like the Baron. The Baron is one of my favorite airplanes of all time. I've never even sat in a real Baron. Or a real Bonanza for that matter. No, I sat in a real... Yeah, I sat in a Bonanza once. But if I had if I had the finances to afford a really nice airplane, this would certainly be on the short list. Sorry for all that head movement stuff. This would definitely be on the short list, I'll tell you that much. So I did a flight the other day, like I said, in the Arrow. The Just Flight Piper Arrow is just awesome. Really is an amazing airplane, and just a really well done airplane. Synthetic. I mean, yes, like synthetic vision is going to show us anything here, right? We're in the middle of the ocean. There you go. I didn't know you could do that. But like I was saying before, the working title team. So this is Microsoft Flight Simulator version 130.7, excuse me. Meaning that this is the avionics beta, as they call it. And so they've redone the GNS 530, 430, 530, the G1000, the G3000, and the G5000, and the CJ4, excuse me, pretty extensively. And so there's a couple GTN 650, 750 options for Microsoft Flight Simulator. One is the PMS50, which is not a GTN 650 or a GTN 750. It's it has the physical appearance of the GTN units, but it operates. It's basically the system is effectively a hodgepodge of whatever people have requested the developer to put in the system, right? Like it's got all kinds of. Not even, to tell you the truth, I don't even really know because I haven't looked at it in quite a while. But it's got all kinds of features that the actual GNS 530 doesn't, or GTN 650, 750 do not have. It's got some things that I'm sure that clearly people would like it to have because they've been requested and the developer put them in there, right? But to me, that's not really the point of. I mean, if you're going to have, a GNS unit or a GTN unit, it should, mirror the functionality of the actual unit. And in this case, it doesn't, which is one thing that bugs me about it. The thing that's really great about it, and has been from the beginning, is that it is compatible with SimBrief. You can put SimBrief charts. It's Venezuela over on the right. God, this is just a stunning airplane. It just looks cool, in my opinion. Just looks cool. It looks like an M5. It looks like the sporty family car of aviation. But the other thing I don't like about it is it costs $75. Now, I have $75. And I ponied up for the first, so it's got two pricing plans. You can either buy it outright for the life of the unit for $75, or you can pay $25 a year. I'm not paying $25 a year, over and over again for something. And at $75, it was at one point. It may have now been eclipsed by the Fly the Mad Dog add-on, the plane, the MD-11. but it was at one point the most expensive add-on for the entire sim, which to me, for a GPS unit is absolutely absurd. If he had asked $50 for it, I would have paid it on the spot. Never thought a second time about it. But I just, on principle, refuse to spend $75 on it. I just refuse. Which kind of leads into my story about the GNS 530, and I'll continue that in a second. But the other option for Microsoft Flight Simulator GTN 435, GTN 650, 750 units is, let's see, what is it? Oh, it's the TDS GTN XI. So this is the G1000 XI. So this is the updated, G1000. Sorry, I just got the cord caught in my arms here. The GTN XI is the updated version of the GTN. Flow is good, time is good, range is good. And the only disadvantage, or literally the only disadvantage to the TDS GTN units, they're based on the Garmin trainer that you can download to practice your buttonology, as it were, on the GTNs on your PC. So it runs the actual unit, the actual software, but it is not what's the word I'm looking for? It is not SimBrief compatible. You can't get SimBrief charts, which in a sense isn't a big deal, because you can get SimBrief charts right here, or Navigraph charts rather, not SimBrief charts, Navigraph charts, that's the word I'm looking for. You can get Navigraph charts right here, so it really, in one sense, doesn't make any difference. But the problem is because it's got first of all, you can't update the database, the ARAC cycle that comes out every 60 days or whatever it is. You can't update that. And I know they update the unit, the trainer, like once every 6 months or a year. So you're never going to be really that far behind. It's not that big a deal. But it doesn't have any procedures outside of North America. That's a problem. And so you could effectively like hand fly ILS approaches and RNAV approaches and stuff like that, or VOR approaches and stuff like that, and actually not ILS approaches. You won't get vertical guidance. No, you would get vertical guidance even if you tuned in the ILS frequency. But the problem is that you can't load procedures outside of the U.S. and basically I only fly outside of the U.S. So that's really kind of a no-go for me. And the other thing is you can totally lost my train of thought. Yeah, the GTN XI is $40 to buy. So they're trying to. I think they're the TDS GTN. They're trying to work with Navigraph to get it to work, that you can have Navigraph charts. I don't know how far along they are. But if that ever gets Navigraph charts, I will pay $40 for that. Without even batting an eyelid. Yeah, see, the georeference charts are only North America. Oh, you know what? I might have just bought the the TDS GTN XI, because I'm sitting here looking at this on my iPad while I'm flying. So the GTN XI, ultra high resolution mapping, terrain information, blah 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 blah, cities, roads, everything else. Nav data, including airports, waypoints, VRs, NDVs, airport diagrams, including taxiways, and the nav database is worldwide coverage. The only thing that if I'm understanding this correctly, so georeference charts are North America only. Everything else is worldwide coverage. So you can't get the georeferenced charts in the GTN in the sim outside of the US. But it's still got all the approaches and the arrivals and the departures and everything else. So you can load them. You can load departures, load approaches, load arrivals. They're just not georeferenced. And what georeferenced means, this is georeferenced. This is currently not georeferenced. Now it is. Georeferenced means you've got this little indicator on the chart showing you where you are. Now, I mean, you would have that anyway in en-route coverage, but let's say destination arrival approach. I ain't flying no. So a georeferenced approach plate is let's go ILS Zulu. What does this look like? ILS Yankee. Alright, let's call it this chart here. So the chart would be georeferenced if you've got this little indicator, your little airplane indicator, or that triangle that we were just looking at before, if that appeared on the chart, right? So you would come in here, enter the hold for whatever reason, come around and come down. You've got the little airplane indicator on the chart. That's georeferenced, and that is useful. But the funny thing is, in the real airplane, so I've got in my Piper Cherokee, this is Grenada, by the way. In our Piper Cherokee, we have the GTN 750, excuse me, with georeferenced charts. And guess what? I don't use it. I don't use the georeferencing on the chart for approaches. I use it on my iPad because the iPad is sitting right here on your yoke. I have a yoke mounted iPad mini. So you're sitting there and you can see your chart and you can see your little airplane flying around on your iPad, which is right in front of you. So flying IFR, you just, you know, doing this rather than doing this. You know. So actually, if the nav database provides worldwide coverage, I might go ahead and buy this unit. That's cool. Yeah, ability to load and activate procedures, approaches, arrivals, and departures from a worldwide list of airports. So you'd have to use either your iPad or the Navigraph charts panel, like this, for the approaches for the charts. But you could load them in the unit and fly them in the unit. So one of the things that you've experienced on this flight is you've experienced me spending $40. Because I am absolutely going to do that. Oh, check it out. There's somebody on VATSIM flying into that airport right now. There he is, look at that. Ha! So that plane right there is American Airlines Flight 2601, a B738 from Miami to Grenada on VATSIM. TTPP tower is online, which is unfortunate, considering I just left there. It's too bad. Alright, well. So let's see if this guy balls up the approach. He's good. I'm sure he's going to do a good job. That's so cool. That's some dude sitting somewhere in his armchair like me. Look at that, there he is. Flying a 737 into Grenada. So we're gonna come up along the Grenadines, which I flew the other day in my in the Islander in my in my 7 Island flight. So we are about 42 minutes out. So this is Grenada, and then out here along this path here is the Grenadines up to St. Vincent. Some great little islands, some beautiful flying along in here. So what we have to do now is figure out what approach we are flying into. That's the old Pearls Airport right there. See that? It was a World War II landing strip, which was the commercial airport here for a while, and then was abandoned and rebuilt. They built this airport down here at the other end of the island, which is probably a decent idea. Because, you know, doing this approach, you've got to come these hills, come in. But it's now a drag strip for racing cars, from what I understand. Some locals that I've heard from. It's kind of funny knowing all this stuff about these places that I've never been. You know, I have learned. I said to wake my dog up. I've learned a lot about the Caribbean from Flight Simulator. So let's find out what approach we're gonna fly now. So we are flying the BNE 6A approach. I don't know why we're doing that, but we are. ILS Yankee. Yeah, ILS Yankee runway 10 seems like the way to go here. ILS Yankee, and I'll show you guys what I'm talking about here. Hold on. So my dog is asleep here. And he's making sleeping dog noises. So why don't I got an idea? I guess trying to wake the dog up isn't going to work. I'd really like this thing to start actually functioning. Hold on for 1 second. Alright, dog is awake. Okay. So, I don't know why this thing is not functioning very well. Yes, I'd like you to load the flight plan. Now what I would like you to do is the arrival, the BNE 6A arrival. Okay, let's open the charts list here. Okay. so we want this. Ah, okay, so here we go. So Agnos. ILS Yankee, let's have a look at the ILS Yankee. Approach ILS Yankee taxi. Don't really care. I mean, I care to an extent, but not that much. Alright, so let's get rid of this. Let's look at the arrivals here. So the arrival, we're going to be coming up here. It's the BNE 68 arrival. 6A arrival. BNE 6A. To Agnos. And then approach ILS runway Yankee Agnos. ILS Yankee Agnos. Alright, let's see if it can do it. Alright, we're going to do a fun ILS approach here. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do the ILS approach. And what this is going to be, so we're coming here from down here up to Kisses and then Agnos. And then we could either do the BNE 6K, which is an arrival, which is going to bring it right around here to straight in. But keep Agnos in mind. Here's Agnos, initial approach fix. Initial approach fix for the ILS Yankee approach into Martinique. So then you're going to come in to a distance of 2.0 from the Fort de France Martinique VOR DME. Then you're going to make a turn outbound here along the heading. Then you're going to do a procedure turn to get turned around inbound. Now, if that doesn't sound like fun, I don't know what does. So Agnos, alright, 4,000 at Agnos. So let's see. Let's see, flight plan, let's see, flight plan. Let's see, procedure. Select the arrival, enter runway 10, Agnos. See how easy this is now? There's that. Now we want to select the approach. We want the ILS Yankee. Agnos, see, here we go. It's so cool. Alright, this is definitely what we want. Minimums. Our minimums. Our minimums on the ILS approach are 210 feet. So let's go Oh, yeah. Alright. We should be good to go. So, before I do anything stupid, what have we got left? Alright, Agnos. VNAV profile. What? No, that's not the weather we're looking for. Alright, so I don't know how to set up VNAV, so we will have to make this up as we go along. So VNAV. No, well. Alright, well, I guess we can just be cute for a while. And, I'll check this out. That is Union Island right there. That's awesome. There's Canalan. Mystique must be up over there. And look how beautiful this is. So there's Canalan, that cool, see that cool on there right there? Just up the wingtip. That's a great little one right here. So it's saying I got 54 minutes remaining. I find that hard to believe. be. One of the things that always surprises me about airplanes is how piss poor gallons per hour miles per hour they do. You would figure, right? I mean, my car has 300 horsepower. I have a 310 horsepower car that's supercharged and it drinks gas. And I get 23, 25 miles to the gallon. Probably overall, I do mostly highway driving. I don't do a whole lot of local driving. So I get about 25, 26 miles to the gallon. This airplane has 300 horsepower. You figure it's not in contact with the ground, right? There's no ground friction. It's certainly more aerodynamic than my car. It's got to do, 50 miles per the gallon, right? At least. And I would venture to guess if you calculated it out, it does like 8. And I don't really understand why. I really actually don't quite understand why. But that's the way it goes. That's the way it goes. So I suppose now that we're... One thing that is... very, very true is that what goes up must come down. 124 is full flaps. Approach flaps 154. Full flaps 124. As the saying goes, takeoffs are optional, landings are mandatory. There would be a lot more people alive in the world today if they understood that. A lot of plane crashes over the years. You just wonder to yourself, what were they thinking? Like they were dead the moment they left the ground. Just had the hopes for their aircraft and for themselves was much higher than reality. What are you gonna do, right? There's Mystique. Let's see here. $80 knots, huh? Cool. All right. So, if you haven't figured it out yet, if you're still awake, maybe. Hold up. Ah, look at that. What's up? I'm nervous about pressing buttons because I don't know what I'm doing. Which should be readily apparent to anybody who's ever watched any of my videos. Alright, I still have no idea how to get the VNAV to work, so I guess if I'm gonna like this airplane and I'm gonna use the VNAV, I need to figure out how that actually functions. So how about we do some mental math? Why not torture ourselves while we have the time? So first of all, let's get a look at our approach here. So BNE is here. So this is not the scale. BNE to Agnos, there's 9 nautical miles, there's 27, so it's 36 nautical miles. At a speed of, let's say, 36 at 120 knots would be 18 minutes, right? So this thing's got to tell us ground speed somewhere. Ground speed 163 knots. So at 3 miles a minute, it's going to be 12 minutes, 13 minutes. So we got 13 minutes to drop 4,000 feet. We had 10 minutes to do it. It'd be 400 feet a minute. I'm pretty happy with that. So we'll do, once we hit Agnos, or once we hit BNE, Huanora here, we'll do a 400 foot per minute descent. Check that. Look at the detail with the hills. Like the depth perception of the hills is really just amazing. Still getting 60 frames per second pegged. There is that's the old one. This is one of the Lost Caribbean airports. This is the old airport on St. Vincent, which is a cool airport. Really, really cool airport. And over here is the new airport, Argyle. You can see what the mechanical turbulence off the hills is doing to the Bonanza there. So basically between oh, it's kind of top of descent. But it doesn't have the altitudes in for the approach. I don't know. I don't know how it plans on. See, look at the top of this hill and the depth perception off the other terrain there. Just amazing. So I don't quite know how this thing plans on, or I don't know what. You know what? If this is correct, if it works properly, once we activate, so if we come to BNE here and make a left, hang a Louis, and activate Agnes as the next waypoint, it should activate the approach. God knows if it will or not, but I suppose we'll see, right? So, alright, let's get our information here. Let's see if we've got any ATC. We do not. $16:30 Zulu. What time is it right now? 17:08. So we'll probably get another. It's likely that we'll get another update before meets our update. That is before we land. Right now, winds are 120 at 16. Clouds scattered at 3,300, broken at 4,100, broken at 5,200. Temperature 29, 2.22. Altimeter QNH 1016. temporarily the winds are 100 and 15, gusting 25, which is no big deal. It's straight down the runway. So BNE kisses Agnes. Agnos. Doink, doink, doink. Then Agnos 13 nautical miles to D2.0 FOF. So Agnos should be 15 nautical miles from the Port Defense VOR. So let me come in here, 2,900 feet. D2.0, make that left turn. Outbound, get the procedure turn. Now there's no distance or time limit here, so how do you know? Well, actually in this particular case there is D8.4. So distance of 8 nautical miles from the Fort Defense VOR is where you begin. What's that word mean? Begin your procedure turn, your course reversal. Couple things to note. So this is outbound heading at 275, right? Make a left turn to 230. It's a 45-degree turn. Your procedure turn is almost always 45 degrees. If you get a procedure turn barb like this, they call this a barb. So a couple things. You've got the ILS DME FF, right? And then you've got the Martinique VOR, which is FOF. So D8.0 FOF, D8.4 FF. So obviously the distance between the ILS DME and the Martinique VOR is 0.4 nautical miles. Not that that's rude. I mean, it's not that important, but we should start thinking about getting ourselves ready here. So we want nav 1. Oh, 1099. That's nav 2. So we want 1099 here, nav 1. And we want 113.3 in nav 2. So let's already pick that up. Nav 1. Switch that over. So 1099 is the ILS frequency, 113.3 is the VOR. Okay, so there's number 1. That's first mission accomplished. Right? Okay. So let's brief the approach here. Clearly we're not going to really fly an approach. Well, nah, we're not going to really fly an approach. I can tell you that already. But let's do it for fun. ATIS 127.85. got Martinique approach 121.1, Martinique tower 118.5, ground point 9er. Remember, if you ever hear ground point 9er from a controller, what they're telling you is 121.9. Anytime they say point whatever, 0.7, point, it's usually 0.9er, but whenever they say point whatever.
Okay, I found this on the web as usual. Check it out.
What? My iPad just started talking to me for no particular reason. There's a couple real live planes right over here. Yes, there should be. There's a Liat and a Air Martinique. Should be. What? No idea what just happened. Oh, this should be right over here. Pretty sure I have live traffic enabled. So let's see here. I don't see anybody. So let's see if we can establish our Navigraph flight plan here. Alright. So, ground point 9er. Localizer frequency is... Now I see the wisdom of where the top of descent is. Because I don't want to be descending over top of these hills. So localizer 1099, we got that in. Final approach course 095. Glide slope intercept is 2,000 feet at D6.3 on the ILS. ILS decision how you refer to the minimums. Airport elevation 16 feet, runway elevation 10 feet. Why are we flying an ILS approach instead of a RNAV approach? Why not? Sounds like fun to me. Let's see. Minimum safe altitude around the FOF VOR, which is here. Down here is 2,900 feet in this area. The 095 inbound course, 230 inbound course. This whole area is 2,900. And the reason is, let's see, 1654. Usually they give you 1,000 feet. So I figure about 2,700, but they give you 2,900. They're being a little generous. And up here it's 6,300 feet, which clearly means that there's some terrain north of the runway, which north of the airport, which you can see up here. So missed approach, climb straight ahead at 2,500 feet, turn right to join FOR VOR holding pattern, climbing to 5,000. So you climb straight ahead to 2,500. You make a standard rate right-hand turn. You gotta keep it tight, I would imagine. so as not to hit this, which is why so that's why it's 2,500 feet. And you come around, this is a left-hand pattern, left-hand holding pattern, which is non-standard. So it'd be a direct entry, you just come around here. Inbound heading of 275. Start making your left-hand turns in the pattern. And then once you are cleared out of the holding pattern for another try at the approach, you would then go, there's 275, that's 275, you just fly straight through the VOR, outbound, proceed your turn, etc. It's all set up logically. Transition level by ATC, which is nonsense. Alright. Unusual that they've got two of these charts because this is with the glide slope out. The altitudes you would want at 6 miles, 5 miles, 4 miles, 3 miles, 2 miles. It's unusual because there's two, there's the ILS DME on the field and the VOR DME on the field. So at the VOR we want to be 5,000 feet. So I am alright, so in actual fact, that's why we don't want to descend until quite a bit later, because we want to cross the VOR at 5,000 feet, which is right here. And start a descent down to 2,000 for the holding pattern of the course reversal. Course reversal, back inbound at 2,000, then you intercept at 6.3. The descent. Missed approach is, so we're doing about, we'd be doing closer to 70 knots, 400 feet a minute. There's actually another good little trick. So this is an ILS or localizer Yankee 10. What does that mean? If you don't have, for whatever reason, if maybe the glide slope is out, the missed approach point changes. The missed approach point then becomes timed from the final approach fix to the missed approach point. So what you would do is the localizer out, right? Or glide slope out, rather. You cross the final approach fix here. That is always the final approach fix. You would descend down to 690 feet. You time it. And it's not precise. That's why it's called a non-precision approach. You've got, if your ground speed is 80 knots, you've got to interpolate what that would be, because you've only got 70 knots and 90 knots. So if your ground speed's 80, it's right between those two. So figure 3 minutes and 45 seconds. But what a smart pilot does is you knock about 30 seconds off this time, right? So let's say you are at 80 knots ground speed and it comes out to about 3 minutes 45 seconds. Go missed at 3 minutes 15 seconds instead, because those last 30 seconds you're just going to be hunting for the ground, and you're just asking for trouble. So what you can do there's got to be a. Oh, yeah, I'm sure there's a clock feature on that. So what you can do is when you cross the final approach fix inbound and start down in the ILS, start that timer. Right here, just start the timer, start it counting. And if for whatever reason the ILS glide slope goes out as you're coming down, instead of having to go missed because you've lost the glide slope, you can just keep descending to 690 feet. Keep descending to 690 feet. Time it to 3 minutes and 16 seconds, and you can still maybe make the approach without having to go around. The point is to back up your approaches. Always back up an approach if you can. I've got a minute. And what I mean by backing up an approach is you have an alternative. If that glide slope goes out, you can do the same thing if you're flying an RNAV approach. If you're flying an RNAV approach, tune in the localizer or tune in the ILS glide slope, or ILS frequency rather. And then if you do lose GPS signal, you can just revert right to the ILS approach. You've already got everything set up. So once we get past kisses here in 14 seconds, I'm going to activate the approach. First of all, I'm going to come back to about 21. Then I'm going to go, let's see, we're going to go vertical speed mode, down, 400 feet a minute. And then we are going to go procedure, select approach, done. There's got to be an easier way to do it than what I'm doing. I don't know if that worked. Okay. Now the reason it gave me that warning for the GPS guidance is because you can use GPS guidance to give you this is interesting, different missed approach altitudes depending on what your climb gradient is. So it's kind of your aircraft performance. Okay, see here it's giving me see how it's giving me the altitude right there in purple, 2900. So let's dial it into 2900 and let's go over here to vertical speed. And we go down there. See that? You just match your vertical speed to the target, 2929. Let's go pitot heat on. Oh boy, let's go fuel pump on. We've left this fuel on that tank forever, so the plane is going to be way out of trim once we get down. All right, let's see. We are hustling right now. All right. Fort Defiance traffic. Bonanza 36 Mike Romeo is 15 miles to the south inbound the ILS Yankee. Runway 10, Fort Defiance. Lights are on. Got the pitot heat on just to be sure. Okay, I'm going to put in a notch of flaps. Those are called approach flaps. Do you know why they're called approach flaps? Because you use them on approach. Approach flaps add some drag. And they just help stabilize the airplane. One thing we want to do is get the weather. Altimeter is 1016. Okay. Pretty happy with that. This is what I was talking about before. That is a geo-referenced chart. So bring the mixture rich. This should really be, I mean, this is a pretty cool approach. This should be pretty neat, actually. I'm going to leave the chart up so you guys can see what we're doing. I don't know if people can never tell whether people really think that's neat or not. Okay. We are closing in now. There's the airport right there. Could easily just make a regular traffic pattern, but how much fun would that be? So let's see how this flies this approach. How gorgeous that water is, the way it changes colors. It's light in here, and it's dark and light again. It's so cool. Alright, altitude select. And it's really interesting when you fly. I don't get too slow here, bringing a little bit of power. It's really interesting when you fly an RNAV or an instrument approach in the clear. See how little maneuvering room you really have. I mean, they're pretty tight. You know, they really are. I mean, we're tighter into this than I might necessarily be happy about. Speed mode again. No. Okay. That was not proper. On my part. So. And again, you're getting down. You're getting down relatively close to the ground. Coming down to 2,000. And now we can stay. We are on, still on green, purple needles, right? And we can stay there until we go around the horn and hit this point again. So that's the final approach fix. Stay on GPS until the final approach fix. So, go around the horn. It's the 45-degree outbound turn. So far, so good. we get turned back around in established 095, that is when I will switch over to green needles. And it'll be about a 10-mile final. Well, it's not going to be about a 10-mile anything. It's going to be an 8.4-mile final. 8-mile final. But I'll call it 10 once we start making the turn. Okay, altimeter set. See, it automatically reset this to 1099, which is not what I want. I actually want the 113.3. I actually want the 113.3, but it's in the backup, so. I want to put 113.3 in both backup frequencies because I really don't want to worry about which one I press if I need to. So pretty soon here we'll be making that right-hand turn back around. Procedure turn. Once we get established inbound on 298, and see, this is a standard rate turn because it's right on the number, right on the hash mark right there. Boy, the plane is flying it perfectly. And this is the thing, like, imagine being in the muck. I mean, you think 8 miles, no big deal. That's a ways out. You're kind of in the muck and wondering what you're doing with your life. Fort de France traffic, Bonanza 36 Mike Romeo turning a 10-mile final runway 10 Fort de France. This is of course when you hope it is runway 10, and it is. Alright, climb ahead 2500 is the missed approach. We are 2 minutes and 24 seconds from, or 2 minutes 18 seconds now to CF10, which is right here. FI10 is the missed approach, is the initial approach fix, or is the final approach fix, excuse me, 6.3 F10. So once we hit CF10, then I'm going to switch to, actually I'll switch to green needles right now. See, now we've got the localizer, and we got the glide slope. So the next thing I'm going to do hold that altitude at 2000, but at some point here we're going to want to bring that up to 2500. And I'm talking the altitude pre-select here, so I'll keep an eye on that. This is the way to fly instrument approaches, to be ahead of things, to be thinking ahead. What am I going to do if, you know, and one of your friends on an instrument approach You got about a 10 knot headwind right now. 106, 105, 92 ground speed. One thing, one good trick when you're flying instruments, if you get in the terminal area, or if you're just making like on an arrival on a star, see how the nose is pitching up? Add a little bit of power. That needle's coming in. Why did it not pick up the... Yeah, so here's where we hit autopilot, disconnect, and we're going to hand fly the approach. Because for some reason, it did not intercept the localizer. You always got to be prepared. To hand fly an approach if you have to. People get way too dependent on their autopilots. If something is going amiss, kick the autopilot off, fly it yourself. Gear down, flaps down. Okay. Catch that localizer needle. Alright, we got the localizer in the glide slope. I'm going to put that altitude pre-select up to 2500 like we talked about. Alright, and now I am not looking out the window. I'm just looking at my instruments here. Bring the nose up a little bit, bleed off some speed. A little bit right of course. We've got company. Or a little bit left of course, excuse me. I'm on instruments. Port de France traffic, Bonanza 36 Mike Romeo, 3 mile final runway 10, Port de France. And I'm just on the needles right now. Small corrections. Small corrections. A little bit of power out. Correcting back to the right. Back to the right, and we're back on about 97 degrees is going to be good. Alright, a little bit of nose up here.
500.
A little bit of power. Fort de France traffic. Bonanza 36 Mike Romeo short final, runway 10, Fort de France. This is what happens when you get chasing one parameter and you start ignoring the other ones. As I got right, of course. I was worried about my glide slope. Not too bad. Still not too bad. That was within tolerances, let's say. In other words, if I was really flying this, I would not have gone missed by being that far off. I might argue I should have, but alright, looking good. Power's out. Get the nose up a little bit of left rudder. Right aileron, we are down. Hold that center line. Now let's get out our airport diagram. Alright, we will vacate on Charlie. Not bad for a hand-flown ILS, I have to say. Lean the mixture for taxi. I'm not going to touch anything else until we are off the runway. The reason for that is this is a complex aircraft with a retractable gear, and I don't want to reach over and hit the wrong switch. There's the gear switch, or the gear switch and the flap switch. You don't want to get those two confused in an airplane like this. So, vacate here on Charlie. So, like I said, I mean, I was a little bit off towards the very end. I think I got distracted on trying to make the radio call, but all things considered, it wasn't too bad. And get off the runway here, then we'll come to a stop. Fort de France traffic. Bonanza 36 Mike Romeo's clear the runway, Fort de France. Now we will reach over and make sure we're touching the right thing. Let's lean the mixture. Let's turn the pitot heat off, turn the fuel pump off. And our taxi diagram. General aviation terminal is straight ahead. So, Fort de France traffic, Bonanza 36 Mike Romeo taxiing to the GA terminal via taxiway Charlie, Fort de France. So this is a pay-where airport. It's a cool airport. But let's get ourselves on center line because we are professional aviators. So we'll taxi down here so we can get a little bit better view of the runway. Mixture is leaned. Turn our landing light off. Other thing I forgot to do. That looks like the FBO right there. The other thing I forgot to do is a pre-landing checklist. I did everything on the pre-landing checklist, I just didn't do the actual checklist. The pre-landing checklist is mixtures and props full forward, seatbelt secure. Alright, I'm just going to stop right here. Mixture to idle cutoff. Let's set the parking brake. Alright. Lights coming off. Avionics master off before the magnetos. And master and battery switches off, and there you go. So, that's that. Pretty darn good flight, I'd have to say. Now let's have a quick look down here at the airport. Let's get our drone camera going. And so let's go over here real quick and have a look at the. This is the GA terminal, I'm pretty sure. I would think, anyway. But this is the GA, the General Aviation ramp, which looks great. And I think the battery is dying on my controller. We got the tower here, which is lovely. This looks like the cargo ramp here. And actually, you can come over here and park. That's what I should have done. And look, I got this add-on that has the correct local. See that, Air France? Got this add-on that has the correct. Whoopsie, there's some grass for you. It has the correct local ground equipment, which is pretty neat, actually. And my controller is dying. So we'll just do a quick look out here. I mean, this is a pretty nice airport, don't you think? And I like the approach into here, that's why I bought the airport. So cars are a little scattered, but yeah. So there you go. Cool airport. It was a good flight. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we will see you next time.